So today let's learn something about more about threads. Okay. So we're going to learn about threads in Java. And this is my episodes of collection classes. But so why suddenly I have gone to threads? Because we need to appreciate the first class, which was, the vector, right? Vector class. So I'm just revisiting my episode on collections and I'm going back to vectors. So we said we started with collection, we used iterables for traversing a collection, and then we wrote a array list class. If you remember, these are the array list class we wrote. We thought about a basic array list, and then we also used the types or parameterization, what we call, we use this as a string. The default is object, we use a string, and then we also you know uh, used array list and linked list here. And then we also realize what is the importance of using interfaces on the left hand side and concrete classes on the right hand side. We just saw an example on vector, right? But I did mention that vector is synchronized. Now, what do you mean by it is synchronized? We need to understand more in depth. I also talked about threads, thread life cycle, little about that. And then, I'm coming to these collection classes, which is synchronized. Synchronized means thread safe. Now, what is thread safe? Before we talk of a thread safe, we also need to know what is a thread, right? Why a thread is needed. So, most of the time, when we create a thread class, we say extends thread. And then we override the runnable method, which also, I have explained in my other episodes on threads. But the important point is not that. The important point is that is it necessary that you always say extends thread, to learn about threads, to override the methods? Not necessary, right? That's what I'm trying to bring here. So when we write a main class in Java, we we know by automatically the main has a thread, but from where that thread came to main, I did not say main extends thread or not. I'm not saying here extends thread. No, I'm not doing that here when I write a main program. I am showing you the power of threads without doing extends thread. Okay. Now, in collections, we are talking of threads here. But where are we doing extends thread here? We are not doing any extends thread here. Now, when we don't do extends of thread, we also talk of, getting concurrent modification exception, which we got it here. If you run this program, just to recollect that, if I run this program, you see this, I got concurrent modification exception. Now, when you say I got a concurrent modification exception, that means something was getting modified simultaneously. What exactly that means? That, a resource which is there, like for example, let's take a real life example. You have a car here, right? Let's say uh, this is your car, right? Let's draw a car here. Uh, let's draw with a pencil. That's more easier. So this is my car, right? And what's happening here is that my car is in a garage, right? Some garage. And then you have one person here repairing something. You have another person here, he's repairing something. Why two people are put on this car to repair? Because I need this car very urgently. What happens is one person is painting the car and other person is, trying to replace the car's wheel. So this guy starts painting here. He comes here and starts painting. And this guy says, hey, don't interrupt me. I am changing the tires, sir. You can paint afterwards. He'll say, no, I have to finish my job. I have to go. So what is happening here? This particular part, whatever is there, it's getting modified. One person is doing a painting, another person is, changing the tires of the car. Similarly, in the software world, what can happen is that you have a resource like a database, and one person is writing a record. A previous record is trying to say delete that, and other person is simultaneously trying to update the record. During that time, we get an exception from here saying concurrent modification exception. But what is this concurrent modification exception? Let's compare this with a real life. So, the concepts of thread will become very clear for us. Concurrent modification. So concurrent modification is kind of not welcome here because this is going to corrupt your database. But in entirety, what happens is that the thread which is trying to delete here, sorry, the command which is trying to delete here is on a separate thread. And update which is trying to update record is on a separate thread. Now again, I talked of thread. What is this thread? You'll say you talk of same terminology again and again, and we don't know what is that terminology. So we don't know what is thread. So thread is simply a loci or a locus, what do you call, right from step 1 to final step. You track under all these steps under one context, and that context is nothing but thread. Right? So now this context or this thread, the example what generally people show is that they say extends thread. So this context, even main is also having a context here. The main program, whatever I'm showing here, that is having a context. So I have a main program here, and it says in the thread main, that means main is also having a thread. That is very important to observe in this exception. If thread is having a main, I did not do extends to thread. Did I do extends to thread here in the main? No. Now this means that main is extending to a thread automatically without you specifically giving it. But how does this happen? Who does this for the main? Main is only a method, right? Inside a class. The moment you put a method as main inside a class, JVM knows that this main method needs a thread and it will extend threads to this main. No, we will not take verbally what you are saying. You have to prove it, right? This is what you will say. So let's go here, right? Now, what I've done here is I've just, put a program. Let's learn about thread is equal to new let's thread and then thread dot print name. I have intentionally put a thread program here, right? And then, what is going to happen is I'm going to run this. Now you see this, right? It has the main thread is getting called here. Thread name is main. And its priority is 5. But you need to remember this, that unless you open a class, thread class, there is no way you can, reach this thread dot print name. Whenever a thread is automatically declared, like JVM has declared it, you don't have control over its methods. You cannot call those methods. The only thing is, sometimes you can check the log, which I'll show in next episode. But for this episode, you need to understand that there is a thread for main, and that thread name is main. If we understand this basic concepts, then the next class, what I'm going to deal is that I'm going to show you how to get logs for the thread and how do we appreciate back vector by design. Nobody likes uses that in collections, but that was the first thought of, it's a breakthrough of understanding how to make the collection safe through, thread safe. So let's meet in the next episode for the, vectors. For now, if you understand this concept, this should be fine. Thank you all. If you like my video, do hit the subscribe button.